People are coming in here. We want to welcome you. This is our second statewide meeting of the year. The first one was back in Q1. This is our Q2 statewide meeting. So we're going to be talking about all sorts of fun stuff. Real quickly, as you're coming in, do me a favor and put your name and where you are joining us from in the chat. My name is Paul Copley, and I am from Oak Park, California, which is in Ventura County, just outside of Los Angeles. So go ahead and drop in as soon as you are logged in and let us know where you're from. Scott Jolly in Santa Cruz. Scott, nice to see you. See, okay, people are coming in now. Got Linda Adams in Roseville. Dan Agner in Oakland. I knew he was here. He's on the meeting already. Arash, there's Steve. Hi, Steve. So thanks for coming. We got a couple things to just talk about. We're going to wait till about 6:05, 6:06 or so before we get the meeting started. I see Jim McRitchie in Elk Grove. Hey, Jim. There's some new names coming in too. That's exciting. Mickey from Palo Alto. That's not a new name. She's been around here from the beginning. How are you doing, Mickey? So there's a couple things that we want to talk about as we kind of get started here and get ready to go. You might not know, but we recently launched a new website. We moved all of our CRM systems off of a platform called Nation Builder over to Every Action, which is a little bit more robust, gives us some more options, and it freed up our website to a new CMS, which is a content management system. So we've now been able to redesign and launch a new website. You can go to calrcv.org and see the version 1 of the new website. We have a lot more flexibility to make updates and design changes. So in the coming months and years, it's going to change and grow as our organization changes and grows. We've also moved our events calendar over to Mobilize, which is an online event marketplace, basically, where you can find different events to go to and sign up and register. And it's helped us a lot with our enrollment. It's helped us find new supporters, and all of our events now live on mobilize.us/CalRCV. And then the last thing is that if you want to get involved, you can go there to, it's up on the screen right now, the QR code. You can just scan that with your phone, and it'll show you any of the events that we have happening in the next 2 to 4 weeks right away. And of course, if you're looking for a way to get involved and you don't necessarily have the time to volunteer, donating is a really impactful and important way to get involved with CalRCV. We have a lot of people who make recurring donations anywhere from $5 to $100 a month. And those donations are incredibly important for helping us project what our budget is going to be in the coming months and years. And that allows us to do all sorts of things, from hiring staff to paying for supplies in order to be able to attend conventions and promotional events and stuff like that. So let's go to the upcoming events. Tom, we've got 3 major events that are happening in the next few weeks. The first of which is that we have a table, and we're going to be reaching out to people at the Democratic Party's reorganizing convention, which is happening in Los Angeles at the end of this month, May 26th through May 28th. We're looking for volunteers in the Los Angeles area who want to come down and work for a couple hours at that table. There's going to be thousands of delegates from all across the state at the Los Angeles Convention Center, and they're going to be hanging out for 3 days. And it'll be a great opportunity to talk to some really heavily involved people in the California political scene and get them on board with ranked choice voting. So if you're interested in volunteering for that, go to our calendar at mobilize.us/CalRCV. Also coming up at the very end of the month, we have the ABCs of RCV, which is our pitch training session. If you're kind of new to RCV and you've never really had to explain it to somebody, this is a really good workshop to attend, because our volunteers help people learn how to talk about RCV. It might seem second nature, but the first time you're standing in front of a stranger trying to explain it, it's a little bit harder than you might think. And then finally, our next big meeting like this is our all volunteers meeting, which is scheduled for the end of June. And that'll be similar to what you're seeing tonight, but a little more oriented towards volunteers. Sorry about that. Okay, so for the meeting for this, the agenda for this meeting, we've got a couple main things we're going to talk about. The first thing coming up after this is that Tom Sharon, our founder, is going to talk to you about our goals for 2023 and beyond. And then one of our new volunteer leads that has stepped up recently, Christine Harris, is going to talk to you about our 10,000 subscriber challenge. Excuse me. And then we'll have a couple of question sessions in between where Arash is going to ask you a question. You're going to type it into the chat, and then we'll all press enter at the same time and see those answers. And then the last item will be an explanation of our board and executive director recruitment process from Tom. So Tom, go ahead.
Paul, thank you. And I'm sure you're going to go get a drink of something as soon as I'm talking. Yeah, scotch. There you go. That'll help with the cough. Hi, everyone. So as Paul mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of the group. We got started back in the middle of 2021. So it's been a little less than 2 years since we got started. And what I wanted to talk to everyone about today is our overall strategy. There is a lot on this slide. This is kind of an overall timeline between now and 2028. And we'll talk about why 2028 is so important in a minute. Just focus on the box that you see, the sort of the purple highlighted box on the slide as I go through. So for anyone who's been to one of Cal RCV's previous statewide meetings, you've seen our strategy laid out in this timeline, but this is an updated version. We're always tweaking and changing to reflect both our wins and our strategy changes and tweaks over time. So we remain focused on getting to a statewide ballot measure for ranked choice voting for the whole state of California as soon as it's practical, which means probably 2028. And of course, a lot of people are like, why 2028? Why not 2024, 2026, 2030? Whatever the case, why 2028 specifically? And there's two big reasons for this. Number one is we need to grow our capacity as an organization. It's going to take on the order of 100,000 supporters, we think, in order for us to feel confident about running a statewide ballot measure. And many millions of dollars are going to have to be raised in order to both get on the ballot and to run a statewide ballot measure campaign. That's one of the big reasons is our capacity as an organization. The other big reason is Gavin Newsom. And we're going to talk a little bit later on about how Newsom and a couple of other governors have vetoed various RCV related bills. Now you can't veto a ballot measure, but having the governor of the state, if he chose to come out against RCV, that would not be good for the movement, and it would, risk losing at the ballot box when we do run a measure. So we prefer to wait Newsom out, and we are working actively on, as new gubernatorial candidates come along, that we're working to make them familiar with RCV, hopefully be supportive or at least neutral about the reform before we actually run our ballot measure. But fear not, we have lots to do and many millions of new voters to get familiar with RCV via city and county campaigns around the state. How are we doing that? Well, it starts with identifying the biggest problem that RCV can address in that particular city, right? There are different things that ranked choice voting helps fix, and it matters, right? What problems are you actually trying to fix in each community? And then we have to build support within those communities. Things like lobbying the city council or the county board of supervisors to put RCV on the ballot. That takes months and months of careful, strategic, behind the scenes work. That's a lot of what we're doing right now here in mid 2023, give or take. And at key moments, we need to show our strength as a movement with advocacy. So that's calling, writing, testifying, providing public comment at meetings, basically showing up in force. And we also hire professionals, whether that's lobbyists or campaign managers who are familiar with the cities and counties where we're trying to get RCV passed. And we know it works because we're winning. So Redondo Beach in March, the people of Redondo Beach chose ranked choice voting by 76%. So that's like, you know, a landslide. They chose to bring it to their city. That is CalRCV's first formal campaign that we ran. And Redondo Beach isn't a huge city, it's about 80,000 people, but we're really thrilled to have 80,000 new people in the first city in Southern California to vote to adopt ranked choice voting. So we're really happy about that. We have Santa Clara County. That is an ongoing effort right now. Just today, in the news, it came out, and maybe those of you who are really involved are familiar with a bill that was run through the Assembly called AB 1227. That's to specifically allow Santa Clara County to use ranked choice voting. We've been working behind the scenes to get that bill put together and through the Assembly. It still needs to go through the Senate, and Newsom still needs to sign it. So we're going to see what happens with that, but you know, that's the strategy that we've got right now for Santa Clara County. And then going into next year, we have a slew of cities that are in play for 2024. And CalRCV is either leading or very closely working with groups in each city. And, you know, working on the community building, getting to know sort of key organizations and people in those cities, and lobbying the city councils or the county board in each of those places. That's kind of what's going on right now. And we need to grow quickly. May not seem particularly urgent to recruit supporters all over the state and beyond just the cities that we're targeting over the next couple of years, but it's the only way we're going to get to the few thousand people that we have as supporters right now to 10,000 by the end of the year, and Christine's going to talk more about that, and eventually to 100,000 by the time we need to start gathering signatures in October 2027. And while we're already having an impact in getting RCV passed in places, we're still run by volunteers with the help of part-time consultants. So the next big step for us in our effectiveness and growth comes when we hire our first full-time employee, which will be an executive director, which all ties back to the three big things that supporters can do. Number one is become a supporter. So everyone here has already done that, and thank you. And like I said, there's already a few thousand of us that are active supporters that are affiliated with CalRCV. The second is to go out and recruit more people, new supporters, and Christine's going to talk about that. And the third, of course, is to donate money, because this does all cost money to do. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Arash.
Thank you, Tom. Actually, can you go back to that slide? I want to first ask a question about that slide for all the folks attending. So,
Yep.
So first off, I'm Arash Sayadi, and if you don't know how to pronounce my name, I like to always lead with that. The way to remember it is that it's not my rash, it's not your rash, it's our rash. And I'm head of operations here at CalRCV. I've been with the organization for just about a year and a half. Very excited about all the progress that we've been making. Today, my role is to ask you guys some questions and see what ideas you have. We tried this format for our all volunteers meeting last month, and it works very well. So we'd like to continue that tradition already in this particular meeting. So here's my first question. You're seeing the list of cities that we're targeting. I'm curious what cities you want to be involved with. So what I'd like you to do to answer that question is type it into the chat, but do not press enter. Don't press enter just yet. So think about it. What cities do you want to be involved with? Just start typing away. And I'll tell you in just a moment, 1, 2, 3, go. When I tell you go, you press enter. So go ahead and think about it. I'm going to give you a few more seconds. And we have a couple of folks who've typed it in. Hang tight, hang tight. Don't press enter just yet. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Whoa, look at that. All right. We have a slew of cities. I see Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Lincoln, Sunnyvale. Not a city, but with CalPERS. Thank you, Jim. San Jose, Santa Clara, Irvine. That's right. Irvine is I think that's been in the news recently. It's been our base camp thread as well. San Diego, San Fernando Valley. That's great. Okay. Very good. And some of you have, I think, already maybe thinking about it. My next question. So here's my next question. What do you think you can help with for the cities that you typed in? So once again, don't press enter for your answer yet, but go ahead and start typing it. Think about it. What can you help with? What is it that's your strength? What is it that you enjoy doing? And I've seen some folks who've gotten involved with things that they truly enjoy. Christine is a really good example of that. She's got one heck of a lot of energy, and she likes engaging people even in grocery stores to have a conversation about this. So whatever you can think of, just go in and think about it for those cities, or really for any way that you want to be involved with, but specifically focusing on these cities. How do you think you can help? What can you help with? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. We have, I forget to put in a divider so I can see where the messages come in. Communications, lobbying, and lobbying politicians, Scott Ross, right on. Bob Schultz speaking at Rotary clubs. That's a great idea. Dan Egner, back office techie things. All right. We have outreach from Stuart Thompson. Steve Chesson, education, the education guru. I love it. Mickey Winkler, BD of soups. I'm sorry, BD means what?
Board of Supervisors.
Okay, Board of Supervisors, thank you. All right, so engaging Board of Supervisors, talking with council members and lobbying. Linda Adams, thank you, that's great. Research, Paul, you're in the right group. Okay, Tom Sharon, canvassing to sign up new supporters, talking to organizations about RCV, recruiting new members. You know, I want to touch on this as far as talking with folks. We do have a speakers team. Steve Chesson is one of those folks as well. And so if you have a passion for getting in front of people and speaking, and you already belong to a club like the Rotary Club that we saw a little bit earlier, that's a phenomenal idea. I used to be a member of Toastmasters when I was first starting out in my professional career, and recently I rejoined just so that I can practice my presentation. But in the process, I've also been able to get the attention of a few folks who are members who said, hey, they're interested. One of them signed up and came to some of our meetings. So it's a great way of not only practicing your chops, similar to the ABCs of RCV, but also potentially getting some additional supporters. Let's see. Talking to organizations about RCV, we already read that. Door to door. Scott, I love it. That's great. You don't enjoy it. Phone bank and events, that's another one you can get involved with. All right. Outreach, education, you know, that's I want to make a comment about that. So that's something to really keep in mind. If you really enjoy doing something, it would probably be something that you can do longer term, especially that 2028 timeline that we're talking about. You want to keep that in mind. Think about what are the things that you really enjoy doing or what you're passionate about. And Matthew has written, I talked to people about ranked choice voting among family members and with my classmates at college. Right on, Matthew, if you haven't attended our ABCs of RCV, that'll be a good place to get even more comfortable with it. I don't think we mentioned this earlier, but ABCs of RCV, if you've attended some of the past ones, you may want to come to the newly revised ABCs of RCV. We made some changes as a result of input from Christine, from Kate DeYoung, from San Diego. We are now focused on the elevator pitch and canvassing and helping each other figure out how we can do it better and also get ideas of areas where we can canvass more often. Maybe have even ideas about how else we can get supporters, but also get the word out on what is RCV. So I highly recommend signing up for one of those events as well. Rich Taylor, I'm kind of new to this. Maybe I should attend the May 31st meeting. Absolutely, come on over. How many points do your number 1 get and your number 2 get and number 3? I'm not sure what that question means exactly. So if you want to clarify that, that would be great. Okay, let's see, how much time do we have? I think that's good. I'll ask one more question. Actually, I'll reserve this for the next segment. I think it'll be better if we just move on to Christine, who's going to be talking about our 10,000 subscriber challenge. Christine Harris, it's yours.
Hello, yes, I am Christine Harris from Winnetka, which is one of the cities in San Fernando Valley, and I am the San Fernando Valley Volunteer Coordinator. So as you have probably gathered by now, this fight to transform most elections in California from single choice voting to ranked choice voting will take tremendous people power. Our adversaries are the incumbent elected officials and wealthy donors who benefit from keeping the incumbents in office. So why do we know this? Because the battle has been going on for decades. Several RCV bills have made it to various governors' desks, only to be vetoed by politicians on both sides of the aisle. So how can we get past that? We do that by getting a ballot measure passed. But what that requires is overwhelming support from the voters. And the only way that many voters can come to understand what ranked choice voting is and get motivated enough to get out there and vote for it is through building our human and financial resources. So we at Cal RCV are challenging ourselves to have at least 10,000 new subscribers to our organization by the end of 2023. Now, while our numbers are building rapidly, we have a long way to go. So here are some strategies we are using to build our numbers. And if anyone, I've been hearing from this, what Arash was leading there, a lot of great ideas are coming out. Please bring them on. We want to know. So here's what we've been doing. A number of us have taken on being regional volunteer coordinators, like I'm the regional volunteer coordinator for San Fernando Valley. And to add extra fun to the process, we've started a monthly competition between the regions to see who can get the most signups in 1 month. And the winning group gets prizes like swag from the website for everybody who volunteered in that region. So to get more subscribers, here's some strategies. We're hosting regular opportunities for volunteers, such as crowd canvassing, like at colleges. I regularly go to Cal State Northridge, or crowd canvassing lines of commencement ceremonies or movie theaters. Door-to-door canvassing, attending meetings and events of other organizations where they let us present for a few minutes and then they let us pass around the sign-up clipboards. And then also setting up our own Cal RCV house parties. So there's a lot of other things you could probably think of doing, and you already have. So all of it's good. Let's do it. When I started doing this, I did much of it by myself. And even though my busy schedule made it so I couldn't commit more than 1 or 2 hours per week to it, I was still able to get us about 60 new San Fernando Valley signups in 1 month. Imagine how many we could get with only 2 more people in San Fernando Valley actively canvassing or joining meetings and getting signups. Maybe 180 in 1 month. And if out of that 180, we found 2 more people, just 2 more willing to get signups, maybe we get 300 in 1 month. And this is just the San Fernando Valley. Now, right now, Kate in San Diego is working with the same type of strategies and getting many signups. It's really, people are very open to this. It's a really easy to talk to people about it. So beyond just getting subscribers, we need people to step up to join our canvases or other efforts. And even more importantly, we need people to organize these efforts in other regions like San Jose, other parts of Los Angeles, San Bernardino, or wherever you live, you can make a difference. Well, you may have to pioneer for your area. You won't be completely alone. We've been doing monthly, like 20-minute, not long at all, 20-minute Google Meets just to compare notes and help each other increase their numbers. And, you know, so, and anyone who wants to join our meetings is welcome. I'll drop my email in the chat and you can contact me if you want to get your area in on the monthly competition. And that's what I have to say. Thank you guys for listening.
Excellent. Thank you, Christine. So similar to what we were doing a moment ago, I'm going to ask some questions again to see what ideas you guys have. Before I do that, there are a couple of questions in the chat. I want to make sure that you know that we're going to address your questions. We have a Q&A segment coming up. So we'll either get to it in the chat momentarily or we'll get to it towards the end. So my question related to what Christine had just mentioned, let me put this divider in so I know, is this. So which of the regions or cities that we have on the screen would you be able to volunteer for? So which of these regions or cities would you be able to volunteer for? So hang on to your answer, start typing it into the chat. And when I say 1, 2, 3, go, just press enter at that point. All right. So we'll give you a few more seconds to type. Just in case folks are typing all 3 cities, I'm just saying.
Arash, what should people write if they're not near any of those regions?
That's a good question. So if you're not near any of those regions, you're welcome to actually propose your own region, because we can't say that we've had enough supporters. We can get them we can get as many of them as we can. So, or we'd like to get as many of them as we can. So please go ahead and propose some new regions. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Yowzin, there we go.
San Jose.
Okay, so we have San Jose. Number of people in San Jose. Sacramento, all right, a new proposed one. San Bernardino, right on. Thank you, Christine. Paul, San Jose. Coachella Valley, all right. We have quite a lot of folks who are interested in San Jose. Surprising, Paul, that you put down Los Angeles. I wouldn't have guessed that. Nicholas, we have Marin. All right, Steve. Oh, he's responding to one of the questions. Okay, Michael, Sacramento, and then we have San Bernardino. Fantastic. Okay, this is great. It looks like there's a lot of focus on San Jose and San Bernardino, possibly. Now here's another question. Christine mentioned, as far as being a lead, or if you don't feel comfortable about being a lead, I want to get a feel for the audience about that as well. If you can't be the lead for one of these regions, or if you didn't type in an answer because you were thinking, hey, I don't want to do it on my own. Can you think of someone, maybe a close friend, somebody who would also be interested? Can you suggest someone as a lead, or with whom you'd like to lead? Maybe a co-conspirator on leading that particular region. So think about that for a few seconds. Type your answer, but don't press enter until I say 1, 2, 3, go. So once again, if you don't think you can be the lead, can you think of someone else who can be a co-lead, or who can in fact be the lead for that region? And you don't have to give a full name. You can say, yes, John, if you like, but let's think about that. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. And like magic. All right. Okay. San Jose and Santa Clara County, no suggestions for lead. That's fine. We will have to find someone who will work there with you, Scott. Sam G, if he ends up staying in San Jose. Right on. Is Sam on the call, by the way? You should probably see that. Okay. Any other thoughts? Tom, you have a comment?
No, sorry.
Got it. Okay. And then my last question. So this is in case you can't think of anyone that can lead. You're not sure if you want to lead yourself. How do you think you can help with reaching the 10,000 goal that we have? How can you help us reach that 10,000 goal? So think about that for a few seconds. It could be other ideas, whatever it may be, about how else you can help aside from getting the signups or helping others get the signups, whatever that thought process is. So think about it for a few seconds. I want to say 1, 2, 3, go, and press enter. How can you help with reaching the 10,000 subscriber goal? All right. 1, 2, 3, go. All right. All right. Scott, I'm a lead on 2 different 1,500 to 2,000 person meeting groups. Right on. Excellent. So I assume you're suggesting essentially having the canvassing with those groups. Let's see, Paul Huffey, help with canvassing events, finding local groups to go and educate about RCV. That's Tom. Thank you, Tom. Scott Ross, communication strategy with help from social media. Ooh, that is big. Right on, Scott. Convert my friends, cycling companions. It grows as it goes. It grows as it goes. Right on. Okay, I like that. You know, I have a poker game that I hold every month, online or in person, and I've begun speaking with them on a regular basis about RCV as well. So it's led to some interesting conversations. It's a great way of introducing folks to another part of you as well. I talk about Cal RCV on my YouTube channel. That's Matthew. And I was thinking doing a live stream on my channel talking about ranked choice voting. You know, we've had Tom on a podcast fairly recently as well. So yeah, I think he'd be your guy for potentially getting him on the live stream channel. Doing voting exercises with student government. Right on. That's great. Especially if they're up and coming voters. What a fantastic idea. Working existing network groups, clubs, excellent. All right. Connect with Elks Rotary Cloud and speak to people about RCV, but I need to do a better job. We'll attend ABC's training. Right on, Linda. And if you want additional help, you can certainly reach us and we'll help you with that as well. Myself, Paul, Christine, we all have our emails. We'll type them in at various times into the chat. You're welcome to reach out to us. So I also help with some of our speakers as they're preparing for speaking engagements. I'm happy to help you with that if you need some assistance with that. Okay. And this just reminds me of the question a little bit earlier about material for these events, canvassing material. So we do have a canvassing kit that we make available. Once you attend the ABCs of RCV, we'll give you access to that as well. Or you can reach out to Paul, Christine, or myself, and we'll make sure that you gain access to it. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Tom for our last segment about the RCV board and ED recruitment. Tom, it's yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Arash. So we talked a little bit about the need to hire an executive director, and we also are embarking very soon on building out our boards. So we actually have, I put up this big org chart slide only to pay attention to the top 2 items here, the 501c3 board and the 501c4 board. And let me explain a little bit more about that. So CalRCV is made up of two different legal entities, and I won't go into tons of detail here, but as they're both nonprofits, but they're different flavors of nonprofits. One is a 501c3, the other is a 501c4, and they're allowed to do different things. It basically comes down to when you're a 501c3, all the donations are tax deductible by the donor. When you're a 501c4, the donations that we donate as supporters to a 501c4, they're not tax deductible for us, but a 501c4 is allowed to do more things than a 501c3 is. So there's a lot of nuance there, but at a high level, that's what it's about. And so for us to be effective, we need to have both kinds of entities. And so we have two different boards of directors. And we have existing boards. They're very small right now, and they're made up of a handful of RCV fans, right? It's people who were with us since the beginning of the organization, and don't necessarily have a lot of experience running nonprofits and fundraising and building up large numbers of supporters and managing volunteers and that sort of thing. And so what we're going to do is open up a recruiting process for both of our boards. And what I want to talk about on this slide is what we're looking for in each of these boards. So the first thing is the silhouettes of people in the middle. So this represents, we're looking to have a total of 8 board members across the two boards. 2 on each side would be just on one of the two boards. And then 3 people are kind of split down the middle because they would serve on both boards. And so that means that the organizations continue to work closely together, but they are legally distinct is the key thing. So for our 501c3, that's more the education side of what we do, whereas our 501c4 is more of our lobbying and campaigning side of things. And so broad brushstrokes again, because both can actually do a little bit of the other. But the key thing is for our 501c3, and the reason I'm saying all this is the request is to please reach out to your networks when we actually post these board positions, which is going to be next week. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. If you personally are interested in serving on the board, please apply. But also, we're looking to go beyond the existing supporter base and the existing supporters of ranked choice voting right now. Because frankly, we need people with these kinds of experience, right? We need people who know how to do nonprofit fundraising, how to apply for grants from foundations. We need people, I'm looking at the left-hand side, the 501c3 board skills that we need. People who have built large grassroots organizations, right? They've recruited thousands or tens of thousands of people, just like we need to do. People who have done volunteer organizing in the past. And of course, people who are familiar with nonprofit leadership overall in the 501c3. And then in the 501c4, we need a lot of the same kinds of things. Certainly recruiting key supporters is really important, but we're also looking for people who have familiarity with fundraising in the political context, right? Fundraising for campaigns, whether those are ballot measures or even for candidates, but just knowing that world and having networks where they can reach out to political donors is really important. Running campaigns, of course, ideally ballot measure campaigns at the local or state level here in California is ideal. A familiarity with lobbying, because that's another thing that we need to do. We hire lobbyists and we do some of our own lobbying because we need to convince a lot of legislators to support ranked choice voting for it to actually be plausible to get on the ballot and to win. And those who are generally familiar with political strategy. So broad brushstrokes, those are the kinds of things that we're looking for in board members. We're going to open up the application process probably mid or late next week, and we will send an email out to all supporters about it. So the main request is please forward and share with your networks. If you have any of these skills, please also apply because we're looking to broaden our boards, both of them. And so separate from the board recruitment, right? So by the way, let me also explain, board positions in nonprofits are volunteer positions, right? So we're talking about 1 to 2 hours a week of work, typically that would be expected of a board member. So it's not a huge commitment, but it's also not nothing. You know, looking at, what is that, 4 to 8 or so hours a month would be expected of a board member, attending some meetings, then doing a lot of outreach and fundraising and connecting with people outside the organization, networking, that sort of thing. Yes, and Linda, 100%. Having the networks to pull in donors and other influencers, absolutely 100% critical for an effective board member. So in addition to the volunteer opportunities at the board level that we have, we also are getting close to having raised enough money that we can hire an executive director. So we're sort of going to the top. And for those of you that have been involved with the organization for a while now, you know that we've been talking about hiring for some time. We've thought about hiring more junior people as organizers, sort of lower level hires initially, but where we've landed is to go to an executive director level person, which is going to be a more senior role, someone with a lot of experience in nonprofit leadership. And that person will need to have these skills. So it's a lot of the same skills that are on the board, but this is a full-time job, paid, of course, and which is why we haven't been able to actually go out and do it yet, because we still need to raise a bit more money before we feel like we've got enough in the bank that we can confidently hire this executive director. So, of course, background in nonprofit leadership, fundraising, both in the nonprofit and the campaign worlds, grassroots movement building, got to know how to bring in thousands and thousands of new people, be familiar with that, and then organizing hundreds and thousands of volunteers, because especially as we get into our statewide ballot measure in a few years, like literally this is going to be about organizing tens of thousands of people who are going to be going out, canvassing, signature gathering, that kind of thing. So really, really big, lot of growth ahead of us to be able to do that effectively. And so as mentioned, both the board positions and the paid executive director position, we're going to be posting them on our website middle or late next week, and look for an email. And again, the ask for everyone here is please forward that out. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention, for all of these roles, board and the executive director, they don't have to be familiar with ranked choice voting. They don't have to be really steeped in it. Of course, they would need to be supportive of it as they learn about it, right? So, you know, but we don't need RCV experts, right? That it's too limiting, right? If we were to say, no, you have to know all the ins and outs of how ranked choice voting works and how, you know, background on election systems and that sort of thing, it's a very small pool of people that have that knowledge. And so that's not something that is critical for the success of the organization. We have a ton of people who know so much about ranked choice voting that work with the organization today. We're also going to be forming an advisory board after we get through our governing board growth and build out. And on the advisory board, that's where we look for people with really deep expertise in implementing ranked choice voting elections, running them, educating people on them, all the things that it takes to succeed at actually implementing and running ranked choice voting. Okay, so I think that covers all of that. I'm going to hand it back to Arash, and reminder that we should have a little time for Q&A at the end. So questions about board and executive director and any of that stuff, save them for that Q&A.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And I'll make this fairly quick. I have two main questions for everyone. And by this point, I think you know the format. I'm going to ask it. So I'm going to ask the question once again, 1, 2, 3, go. So first question, with regard to what you just heard, those 3 positions, who would you suggest we recruit for the board or the ED role? So do you have anyone already in mind? Are you thinking of someone yourself maybe, or anyone else that you may know who would be a good fit for those positions? So whom would you suggest we recruit for the board or the executive director? So think about that for a few seconds, and then I will say 1, 2, 3, go. And you can press enter on your chat. I feel like I need a Jeopardy music for this segment. Boo, 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 boo. No, maybe not. I'm terrible at that. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Executive Director Tom Shank. All right. Scott, yeah, Feeder. Okay, Mike Feeders used to be head of Sierra Club. Joshua Leone. Okay. Okay, very good. And then among the people that you brought up, or people that you're still thinking of, whom would you be able to introduce us for these roles? Do you have direct connections, in other words, or secondary connections where you think you would be able to introduce us? So think about that for a minute. Whom would you introduce us to? And then we'll do another 1, 2, 3, go, and we'll get into a Q&A segment. All right. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. Scott, I love it. I love the way you're taking action. That's great. Thank you for that, for looking into it.
These are hard questions. The number of answers has dropped off precipitously.
Yeah, yeah, it becomes tougher. It would be good if I had like sent the questions in advance. I don't know, right? So people would have thought about it. Okay, so this gives us a good 10 minutes to answer any questions and wrap things up. So I'll hand it over to Paul, who's going to take us to the last segment of our meeting.
Thank you, Arash. I'm not choking and on the verge of dying anymore, so I should be able to get through this. One thing I did forget from the beginning, though, we are just about to retire a mock election that we've been running for a couple months and move on to a new mock election. But if you used ranked choice voting, I just dropped a link into the chat. If you click on this link, it'll allow you to vote for your favorite California destination. We've got a heated competition going on between a few different hotspots, and then we can go ahead and view the results in a little bit. If you don't, if you're on your phone and you want to vote on your phone, Tom has thrown up the slide with the QR code. You can go ahead and scan that. And so go ahead and just, while we do a little bit of Q&A, if you have a moment, you can go and you can vote on those favorite California destinations, pick your favorite destinations 1 through 5, and then submit your vote, and resist the urge to view the results, because what we'll do is we will all view the results together. So I know it's very counterintuitive to not immediately view those results, but I'm going to ask you not to do it. Go ahead and cast that vote and then do not view the results. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can go ahead and you can type them into the chat. Either myself or one of our other experts here will be able to answer those for you. Or if you want to, you can raise your hand. You can click the little, in the reaction tab down at the bottom of your screen, there's a raise hand button. which will raise your hand, and we will call on you, and you can ask your question if you have any questions. If you don't have any questions, that's fine too. Let's see, Linda Adams. I have someone in mind and will contact her, but I don't want to toss her name out without asking her. That's very thoughtful. Arash has a question.
Yeah, so I know we said we're pretty close with the 10,000, or rather, excuse me, we've gotten pretty far in the 10,000. We need a lot more. Do we have the latest numbers?
So we launched in September of 2021. At what point we had one supporter, I think Tom, who is the one who filed the paperwork. And since then, we've grown to about, we have about 6,000 contacts, you would call them. And that includes social media followers. That includes people who have signed up. And maybe they only gave us a telephone number, so they only receive text messages or something like that. But in terms of confirmed email subscribers who get our newsletter, who get our invitations, we're at about 20, let's say like 2250. So we have roughly like 7,500 to go. And we've just started really ramping up in the last probably 3 weeks and added about 300 to 400 new supporters in the last few weeks as we've started breaking up into regions. So one of the things that has supercharged that is that we have brought on regional coordinators, Kate down in San Diego and Christine up here in Los Angeles, that have started working on their own to set up events and go out and do canvases and find people. And then we've just had more volunteers that have been finding events in their area to go to. Tom Sharon, our founder, got the idea to go hit up the line at a Bertie Sanders book talk. And it was a long line of people that had nowhere to go. So lines are great for that. And they were able to sign up as many people as they had clipboards and pens to hand out. So there's a lot of really ripe events out there that we're starting to go to, and these numbers are starting to increase. And every single person that you bring on board who becomes motivated to go out and do a little bit of volunteering, it's not a one-for-one game. It's much larger than that. So if you sign up 100 supporters, and out of that 100 supporters, you get even one dedicated volunteer, that person's then going to go out and start producing those numbers as well. So as we grow, it will have something that looks more like an exponential growth curve like you see on the screen versus something that's just linear, because it's got kind of a pyramid effect to it. I don't want to say Ponzi scheme because that's really not good. We'll call it a pyramid effect, where everybody goes out and gets 2 more people, and they get 2 more people, and they get 2 more people, and so on.
Exponential techie growth. Yeah, hockey stick growth. Yeah.
Let's see. Patrine writes, to confirm, Cal RCV is working to promote proportional representation with single transferable vote, or RCV with or without PR component. So we are promoting ranked choice voting for single ballot elections, and when it is feasible, we are proponents of proportional representation. It's not always as workable in the short term. It's harder for some people to understand. We generally, with explaining ranked choice voting as a gateway to proportional representation, but we're big fans of both, to answer your question. Let's see. On board recruitment, Dave is saying, isn't it backwards as far as governing boards and advisory board? I'll let Tom answer that one if he wants to in a second. And then Scott Jolly asks, do you recommend people coming in cold to the ABC's talk? Yes, we do recommend that. That is the purpose of the ABC's talk. If you are well-versed in ranked choice voting, it's probably still good for you, because one of the problems that people who are well-versed in RCV run into is that they get into the wants really fast. You start talking numbers, you start talking about how the counting works and contingencies for ties and stuff like that. And really, when you're explaining this to somebody new, you want to be able to boil down your explanation into an elevator pitch, something that you could get out in 30 to 45 seconds and explain basically how it works, so that if someone had to turn around and answer it on a test, they could get that question right. So if you don't know anything, it's a great primer to have you learn about the basics of deeper understanding and how to talk to other people. And if you're well steeped in it, it's a great opportunity to practice your pitch and figure out exactly how to pitch that to someone who's never heard it before without their eyes glazing over and them just walking away. One more question here. My college kid let me know about this RCV thing, but really don't understand fully. Okay. So my first choice gets how many vote points, and does my third get how does my third get my vote? Well, it doesn't work like that. You don't assign points to your people. The way it works is that you vote for your candidates in order of preference, and then they go into an instant runoff election. If none of which is rounds of counting, similar sort of to a caucus, if you ever watch the primaries, the presidential primaries. If nobody in the election passes the 50% threshold, then the lowest performing candidate is eliminated. If you selected that candidate as your number one choice, then your vote gets cast for your number two choice, and all of the ballots are counted again. And they keep doing that until one of the candidates passes the 50% threshold and wins with a majority. So there is no points assigned to your 1, 2, and 3 choice. I think, and Steve can correct me if that's wrong, I think that's Borda or maybe some other form of election where your ballot is weighted by your choices. In ranked choice voting, your first choice gets your vote, and if they're eliminated, your vote goes to your second choice.
Oh, this may be a good time to actually show the results of the mock election.
Yeah, they're coming in. Okay, so round one of the mock election is up on the screen, and we do not have a majority winner. To illustrate the point, nobody's gotten past 50%. So the lowest performing candidate, which is Disneyland, which is crazy, but apparently it's the lowest performing candidate. And so Disneyland is going to be eliminated, and the 9 votes that went to Disneyland will be redistributed. You'll see that happen now. Okay. So everybody picked up a few more votes with Yosemite doing the best. And now, since still nobody has passed that 50% threshold, the next round will happen. Palm Springs will be eliminated, and those 15 votes will be reallocated. Okay. Getting closer. Yosemite is still in the lead, but nobody has won yet. So we'll go on to the next round where Napa Valley will get eliminated, and those 29 votes will be reallocated. And that puts Yosemite over the 50% mark. So Yosemite is the majority winner and wins the election in 4 rounds with the majority of the vote. That's how it works. So if your choice was eliminated, your vote went to your second choice, and that keeps happening until someone wins the election. Okay, so does anybody have any more questions or comments that they wanted to make, witty observations?
Paul, I think I missed a question from Scott. Scott's comment